foundation does not clap when the storm arrives. It simply holds. Somewhere beneath every structure that has ever stood, there is a layer nobody photographs. No plaque marks it. No tourist kneels beside it. And yet, the entire weight of the building, every floor, every voice inside it, every argument that has ever echoed through its halls, rests on that one unglamorous fact. Something down there refused to move. Think of an old cathedral. The kind whose ceiling seems to breathe with centuries of candle smoke. People come to admire the vaulted arches, the colored light, and the carved faces of saints who no longer have names. But none of that survives without the stone laid first in silence, before there was anything to admire. That stone never asked to be seen. It only asked to bear weight without shifting. There is a version of this in the body. In the nervous system that decides 100 times a day whether to brace or to hold still. Someone says something sharp. A message arrives that changes the shape of the afternoon. A memory rises uninvited, dragging its whole weather system behind it. And in that instant, before thought, before words, something in us either reacts or does not. We tend to think power looks like motion. A raised voice. A quick reply. A door slammed hard enough to rattle the frame. But watch closely and you start to notice something else. The people who seem most rooted, most difficult to knock off center, are rarely the ones moving fastest. They are the ones who have learned, somewhere along the way, to let a disturbance pass through the room without asking them to rearrange the furniture. Notice, too, how much of daily life is spent responding to things that never needed a response at all. A comment made in passing. A look held a beat too long. A small delay that gets read instantly as an insult. Each of these arrives carrying almost no real weight of its own. And yet, each one has the power to pull an entire day out of shape, simply because something inside reached for it too quickly, gripped it too hard, and decided too fast that it mattered more than it did. This is not a failure of character. It is closer to a habit of construction, learned early and rarely examined. The habit of building on whatever lands first, rather than waiting to see what truly deserves to be built upon. Call it the architecture of reality if you like. This quiet, load-bearing choice that happens beneath every visible event. Not because reacting is wrong. Not because stillness is superior to feeling. But because somewhere underneath every reaction, there is a foundation stone deciding, silently, what the whole structure will be built on. So here is the shape of the question this reflection wants to sit with. If the loudest part of a life is never the part that holds it up, then what is truly doing the holding? What would it mean to meet a moment, a sharp word, a sudden fear, or an old wound resurfacing, the way a foundation meets a storm? Not by refusing to feel the weight, but by refusing to let the weight decide who moves. Come, then, down into that question together, one layer at a time. Before that descent, notice one more thing about foundations. They are almost always invisible while the building stands. You only see one when something has already fallen, when a crack runs up through plaster, and someone finally asks what is holding the wall together in the first place. Most of the time, the whole arrangement works precisely because no one has to think about it. The stillness at the bottom does its work in the dark, unphotographed, unthanked, simply present. That is worth sitting with for a moment. The strange fact that the most decisive part of any structure is usually the part nobody notices until it stops functioning. The first layer is the one everyone can see. A person is provoked and does not fire back. A room grows tense and one voice stays even. From the outside, this looks like restraint, maybe even coldness, the culturally familiar image of the calm one in the corner while everyone else raises their voice. Some traditions read this figure almost as an architectural feature, the unmoving pillar around which a gathering organizes itself without noticing it is doing so. A pillar does not compete with the roof. It simply continues being a pillar. And the roof, without ever thanking it, stays up. But watch that pillar long enough and you notice something strange. It is not empty. It is not hollow the way an actor's calm can be hollow, performed for an audience, cracking the moment no one is watching. The pillar is full of the same forces pressing on everything else in the room. Heat, pressure, the pull of gravity, and the argument's whole weight. The difference is not the absence of force. The difference is where that force goes once it arrives. Consider, too, how often this pillar gets misread by the very people standing near it. A raised voice reads as strength because it fills a room quickly, the way a flame fills a dark space before anyone checks whether it is genuinely warm. Silence, by comparison, seems to offer nothing to measure. And so, the pillar is sometimes mistaken for someone who does not care, someone untouched, someone who has simply opted out of feeling. This is the oldest misunderstanding attached to the symbol, and it deserves to be named plainly before going further. Stillness is not the same as indifference. A pillar that felt nothing would not need to be built from stone at all. It would need no strength because nothing would ever press against it. This is the first quiet correction the symbol offers. Zero reaction was never about feeling nothing. A stone under a cathedral still receives every ounce that presses down on it. It does not become numb to the load. It becomes structured enough that the load has somewhere honest to go. Down, through, into ground that was prepared for exactly this. Numbness refuses the weight. Stillness metabolizes it. And here, the image begins to change shape, the way a shadow lengthens as the sun moves without announcing that it has moved. The pillar in the corner of the room is no longer only a person deciding not to shout. It becomes a description of something inside every one of us, a place where sensation arrives and is allowed to simply be received, rather than immediately converted into words, into movement, into a reply that has to exist in the next 3 seconds. This is the second layer, the internal one. Somewhere beneath the reactions we perform for other people, there is a narrower, more private event. The moment between the spark and the flame. Some traditions call this the gap. Others simply call it breath. Whatever the name, it describes the same brief architecture. The half-second in which a nervous system decides whether a feeling will be witnessed, or whether it will be discharged outward as words and gestures before it has finished forming. Picture that gap as a kind of foundation being poured in real time. Wet, unset, capable of taking any shape at all before it hardens. Most of a life is built in gaps this small. Not in the big declarations, not in the dramatic confrontations people imagine when they picture their own turning points, but in 10,000 tiny, unnoticed instants where something rose, and something else, quieter, decided what would be done with it. There is something almost tender about this gap once it is looked at directly. It does not belong to the loud parts of a life. It belongs to the quiet, unrecorded middle. The 3 seconds after a message is read and before a thumb moves toward the keyboard, the breath held between hearing bad news and finding a first word to say. Nobody builds a monument to that interval. And yet, everything that follows, every apology later regretted, every sentence that could not be unsent, every silence that turned out to be exactly the right response, was decided somewhere inside that narrow, unmarked space. This is where the sensory truth of the symbol lives. In the chest tightening before a reply is typed. In the jaw setting before a sentence is spoken. In the specific physical heat that rises up the back of the neck in the second before a decision gets made about what that heat will become. Zero reaction, understood this way, is not a philosophy. It is a physical event, small enough to miss, large enough to determine the whole shape of a day. And so, the image shifts again, moving from the general architecture of a nervous system to something much smaller, much more personal. A single life, built moment by moment out of these gaps. This is the third layer. The one that cannot be generalized because it belongs only to whoever is listening right now. Somewhere in a particular life, there is a particular pattern. A specific voice that always gets a reaction. A specific fear that always wins the argument for speed over stillness. A specific old wound that still fires before thought arrives to slow it down. No image on a screen can name that pattern for someone. Only the person living inside it can recognize it, the way a hand recognizes its own scar in the dark. Perhaps there is a particular room where the old pattern always plays out. A kitchen. A phone screen lighting up late at night. A chair at a table where a certain conversation always seems to repeat its shape. Perhaps there is a particular tone of voice, belonging to someone specific, that reliably reaches past every careful practice and lands directly on the oldest nerve. None of that can be diagrammed from the outside. It can only be recognized quietly, privately, by whoever has lived long enough inside their own foundation to know exactly where the old cracks run. What can be offered here is not the pattern itself, but the invitation to notice it. To ask, gently, without judgment, where in one's own life the foundation has been asked to hold weight it was never given a chance to prepare for. Where reaction has been mistaken for strength because it was loud, and stillness has been mistaken for weakness because it made no sound. Some traditions read this confusion as one of the oldest human errors. Mistaking the visible motion of a life for the invisible structure underneath it. There is no claim here that this is provable or ancient or hidden from the world on purpose. It is simply one way of looking, a story architecture tells about itself, if you are willing to listen to buildings as though they were memory. And within that story sits a single, quiet suggestion, that the ones who shape reality most durably are rarely the loudest builders. They are the ones who learned, somewhere in some ordinary, unremembered day, to let the weight of a moment travel all the way down before deciding what to do with it. That suggestion does not ask to be believed. It only asks to be tested. Not in theory, but in the body, in the next disturbance that arrives uninvited. Here, then, are some ways to sit with that testing, offered not as instruction but as invitation. The first is simple: the practice of the unanswered spark. The next time something sharp arrives, a comment, a memory, a flash of fear, try letting 3 full breaths pass before doing anything with it at all. Not suppressing it, not performing calm. Just letting it exist in the body for the length of 3 breaths, the way a foundation exists under a floor before anyone walks across it. Notice where the breath catches. Notice where it moves freely. There is no correct answer here. Only information gathered quietly about how this particular structure is carrying today's particular weight. The second is a practice of naming without engaging. When a reaction rises, try quietly saying to yourself what it is, in the plainest words available. Anger, fear, the old ache again. Naming a disturbance this way does not make it disappear. It simply keeps it from disguising itself as an emergency that must be handled this instant. A name is a small act of architecture in itself. It gives the feeling a shape, a boundary, a place to stand, instead of letting it spread formless through the whole body like water finding every crack in an old wall. The third could be called the pillar posture. Sitting or standing for a few minutes, imagining the spine as something load-bearing rather than expressive. Not stiff, not braced. Simply present, the way a column is present, holding without straining, upright without gripping. A fourth practice involves listening to the body as though it were a structural report. Where is tension gathering? Where does something feel like it is being asked to carry more than its share? This is not a diagnosis, only an inventory. A quiet walk through the rooms of the body to see which walls are under strain today. Shoulders, jaw, the place just behind the sternum where worry likes to settle. Simply visiting each place without trying to fix any of it is its own quiet form of maintenance. A fifth invites a walk, ideally alone, with no destination that matters. Notice everything that pulls at attention, a sound, a worry, an old conversation replaying itself, and instead of following any of it, simply let it pass. The way weather passes over a building that was built to outlast a single season. The point is not to empty the mind. The point is to practice remaining upright while thoughts move through, the way a column remains upright while wind moves past it on every side. A sixth is quieter still. An evening question, asked without needing an answer written down. What arrived today that asked me to react? What did I do with it? This is not for judging the day. It is only for noticing the pattern, the way a builder walks a finished wall at dusk, checking nothing more than whether it is still standing. Some evenings the answer will be uncomfortable. That discomfort is not a failure. It is simply the sound of the foundation reporting honestly on what it carried. And a seventh for those who want it. Before sleep, a single sentence repeated slowly. Let the weight go all the way down. Nothing more elaborate than that. Just the sentence and the breath underneath it and whatever the body chooses to do with both. Repeated over many nights, a sentence like this stops being words and starts becoming something closer to a shape the body recognizes. The way a familiar staircase is walked in the dark without needing to be seen, one step trusting the next simply because it has been trusted so many times before. None of these practices promise a permanent stillness. Some days the foundation holds instantly. Other days it takes the whole day just to notice that it did not. Both are part of the same structure, still under construction, the way every real building always is until the day it is finally left alone. What has been offered here is not a claim about how reality works, and certainly not a proof of anything. It is one lens held up briefly against an old and ordinary human experience. The experience of being provoked and having to decide, in some silent, unlit room of the self, what to do with that provocation. Some will find the image of the foundation stone useful. Others will set it down and reach for a different one, and that is exactly as it should be. Because the architects spoken of here were never a hidden order, and zero reaction was never a secret possessed by the few. It is closer to something anyone can practice quietly, imperfectly, in the smallest unnoticed moments of an ordinary week. Not to become untouched by life, but to become the kind of structure life can press against without collapsing. There will be days when the practice fails completely. When the sharp word gets a sharper one in return. When the old wound wins before breath ever gets a chance to arrive. That failure is not proof that any of this was wrong. Even the oldest, most carefully laid foundations settle sometimes, shift a little, and need to be looked at again by whoever is responsible for them. The work is never finished. It is only on the better days continued. Maybe that is enough of a thought to carry out of this room. Not a truth to defend, but a question to keep asking. What is being built right now in the space between a spark and a reply? And is it something that could hold quietly long after the moment that caused it has already been forgotten? The stone underneath never explains itself. It only continues, unremarkable, unseen, holding whatever is asked of it. Which may be the oldest kind of power there is. This is the truth. No one applauds a foundation. No one ever will. And perhaps that is exactly the point. The deepest kind of strength was never built to be witnessed. It was only ever built to hold.